Live from the chicken wing capital of the world, Buffalo, New York. You're listening to the Child Care Bridge Podcast, your source for the best tips, tools, and tactics on how to market and grow your child care center, ensuring total domination. Total domination. This is the Child Care Bridge, and this is your host, Michael Tasner.
Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Child Care Bridge. Today's topic is all about open houses. Now, you might think that I am on the stance of don't do any open houses, put all your efforts on digital, and that is definitely not the case. But the asterisk that I have to provide to you is that most of you are completely doing it wrong. Most of you are executing these open houses as almost a Hail Mary. Hey, we want to aim to get some new enrollments. Let's just do an open house. And it looks something like this. You make a decision to do an open house. You don't strategically pick a date. You look at the calendar. Oh, looks like we have an opening in 2 months from now on a Wednesday. Great, let's lock it in. And then you assign different people on your team, or maybe you're doing the brunt of it, and you start to figure out where you're going to get the food from. You're going to rent a bounce house or a petting zoo or all those different activities. You typically will make a flyer, slap something up with some really poorly designed clip art that just doesn't look great. You'll tell the parents about it, have them spread the word, and then you'll kind of hope and pray. Now, some centers will take it a step further, and they might do a radio ad. They might do a billboard. They're definitely going to post about it on social media. And the night typically doesn't go, or day doesn't typically go how you were hoping. And there's one key mistake that you're making. When you're looking at the preparation for this, you need to really be crystal clear on the who. Who is this event actually for? If your event is meant to be for parents and ideally they bring in some potential referrals, then we're going to go down that path and we're going to talk that through. If you're looking for this to be more of a community branding event, that's a different strategy and a different story. And finally, if you're looking to actually drive enrollment, that's a different audience. So before you actually pick a date, I need you to get clear on which of those three are you going to focus on. So if you're going to focus on parent referrals, then this event needs to be designed and labeled as an open house for current families, and you need to push it to the families. And as you start to deploy your marketing, you need to have reasons why current families are going to bring potential families. You need to tell them the types of families. Now, ideally, it's very easy to say, we're looking for more families like you. But if you have certain gaps in your enrollment, maybe you want to call specific things out. In that particular marketing, you're not going to go wide. You're not going to be doing billboards or radio or anything like that. You already have the email list, the mailing list, the cell phone numbers of all of your families. So why would you cast a really wide net if that is your target? You'd want to craft all those campaigns. You'd want to have multiple emails going out to families. You'd want to have text messages, voice broadcasts, what I call lumpy mail. So don't just send a little letter in the mail. Send them something that has a little bit of texture, and that's where the name lumpy mail comes from, where it gets opened. So maybe you put in there, I don't know, a little duck or something random where it makes the package lumpy. They open it up, what the heck's in here, and then they'll actually much more likely scan and read your material. So why would you go wide if that's your strategy? If you're looking to attract the community, then you need to take a couple of steps back, lower your expectations on this being an enrollment event, and labeling it as an open house and branding it as a community event. We want people from the community to come in. And when you start to look at, well, what do you want to do to attract those particular people? My preference is for you to look at, can I partner with a couple of businesses that we could refer people back and forth? I own a brand called the Dream 100. And that core philosophy is about building 100 relationships that could completely change the trajectory of your business. And those relationships need to be businesses that have the similar customer as yours, but you do not directly compete. Martial arts studios, dance studios, trampoline parks, theme parks that are local, water parks, other dojos, pediatric dentists, gymnastics. The list is pretty darn long. I mean, we're talking, the list that we've made internally is close to 100 different types of businesses that are similar to yours, but do not necessarily directly compete. You're not going to invite other childcare centers to come to your open house. That wouldn't make strategic sense. So that particular community event, you need to cast a pretty wide net. But one of the things that a lot of these centers that execute open houses do is they think that it's going to be an enrollment event, but then who ends up coming are the people that live close. They see a bounce house, they see free food, they show up. That crowd is tough to not attract unless you have a couple of things in place, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So we talked about a parent referral event. We talked about more of a community branding event. The third one is the one that I always suggest focusing on, and that is strategically planning open houses as enrollment events. And when you're branding this, when you're marketing this, the first thing that you need to do after you've identified that, hey, we want this to be an enrollment event, is you need to be strategic about your dates. When are you typically getting the most enrollments? So August, September tends to be two of the biggest enrollment months. January tends to be another great month because people decide that they want to switch. They're not in love with their current provider and go through the holidays, and then they make a switch or a decision in January. So look at when you traditionally are getting the most spurts of enrollments and pick at least 1 or 2 dates around those. Now, you want to have at least 2 months in advance. This is not something that you want to just slap on the calendar in 30 days. The only reason you would want to do that is if you have a hefty budget that we can play catch up. So let's say that you're planning an event and it's 2 months out. What do you do to make this event successful? How do you attract the right people? How do you drive this to where it's not just that community event in the last one, but it's actually a smashing success? When you're putting out the branding, you're not just labeling it as an open house. You're labeling it as open house hyphen active enrollments, enrollment something. So come up with some kind of fun name. You don't say enrollment decision, but you want to make sure that you have the word enrollment on your flyers, in your advertising. And not just, oh, we're actively enrolling and it's buried at the bottom. But I want it front and center with the name of the event. The downside to when you're calling it and labeling it an open house is that more people feel like an open house is an open invitation to just come, free food, have fun, and leave. Now, those events have their place. But if you've selected and you're focusing on, let's actually have this be, for right now, an ROI, return on investment, positive event. Open house, enrollment decisions, enrollment education, enrollment tours. Like you want to be guiding them, telling them, well, if they're coming to this event, there's going to be a bunch of discussions around enrollments. Almost every flyer that I've seen, the open houses promote all the fun stuff. Now, you need some fun stuff. You want to have some good food. That's not just pizza, for example, even though I absolutely love pizza. You want to have something that is a little bit different than all the other centers are doing. Everyone else is doing pizza, bounce houses, like they're doing very similar things. So what can you do to differentiate yours from everything else that's occurring? Maybe you're bringing a local celebrity or someone local to your particular event. Maybe you're able to go and get not necessarily the highest level of team like an NFL team, but maybe there's a couple of teams below that could be interesting and that are going to help you attract an interesting crowd. But look at what can you do to differentiate your open house enrollment event from all the others. So as you're crafting your copy, as you're crafting your flyer, your emails, your follow-up messages, all of that stuff, make sure that you're talking about, hey, we're going to be giving tours, we're going to be talking about enrollment, we're going to have special scholarships this night only. So if you try and push for a sense of urgency by way of direct response marketing, that's also going to start to prime the people that, hey, there's going to be some scholarships. Let's talk about that stuff. And let's ideally make a decision that particular evening. Now, how do you make sure that if it's an enrollment event, that everyone and their cousin doesn't show up? So the first thing is I really need you to make sure that you are fishing in the right pond. So when you're looking to attract and bring the people that you want to enroll, you're going to know who your target families are. Who are those best families? Who are those families that are the dreamy families, like that you would love hundreds and hundreds more of those? I want to make sure that you are actively marketing in those ponds rather than casting an extremely wide net. So maybe it's a particular magazine. Maybe there are particular schools that you need to partner with. Maybe there are certain stores, businesses, but look at how can I make sure that the right people are at the event? And what I like to do is I like to actually physically send tickets. Why would we physically send tickets? Well, number one, it's going to eliminate any of the randomness that is just walking in and eating your food for free. But two, it gives you an opportunity to then capture more information. It's easy to get email addresses. We're going to send you an RSVP. That's easy. Cell phone number is the next one that I want. But the addresses are also great because you can start to plot those. You can start to see where these people are coming from, what neighborhoods, how far away they are, and starting to leverage that stuff to your advantage. So I love being able to then put something in the mail to them. I might add some enrollment data. If you have the shock and awe kit, which we've talked about, you're sending them a folder that has a bunch of different really great stuff in it, not just your, this is how you enroll, but testimonials and case studies and your accreditations and why your center is different and all of that amazing stuff. It just separates you from the pack. With marketing, we need to separate you from everybody else. If you haven't noticed, I've been talking about how centers are getting more and more and more competitive. More franchises are coming in that have traditionally and typically bigger marketing budgets than you do. They're coming in and they're destroying a lot of these smaller centers. How do we fix that? Well, A, we either outinvest them, or B, we get more creative. What franchises can't do, and the individual franchisee owner, is they can't veer off. They have to follow brand standards. They have to get things approved, whereas you are the judge and the jury. You can make the decisions. So let's separate ourselves from the pack. Let's put something physical in the mail that's a little bit different. Let's send a gift card to a particular restaurant. Let's give them a voucher that they can redeem when they come in person to get a particular prize or gift card. So just start to think about how you can make this interesting, but how you can make sure they show up live. Out of everything that I've shared, that last piece is the most important piece. If you have this event and you have 10 people that are there live, yeah, you might grab a couple of enrollments, but maybe you had 100 that RSVP'd. Now you wasted food and other stuff for 90 plus people. I was just at an event last week, not an open house event, but there were 50% of the chairs in the room that people had RSVP'd, said yes. They literally had salads on the table, already had prepaid for all the food. So they just lost a pile of money. So yeah, the losing money piece isn't fun, but I need butts and seats. I need people there that you can give your tours to and talk through enrollment and scholarships and all that fun stuff. So incentivize them to come live. This is why you're going to want to show up. Exclusive scholarships only available on this evening. They will never be available anywhere else, and it's done once a year. XYZ person is going to be there. If you want to get pictures, autographs, etc., you've got that. Only can be done live. Number 3, you're going to redeem your voucher and you're going to win anywhere from a $5 Dunkin' Donuts gift card to our grand prize is a overnight spa getaway for 2 valued at $1,000. Every single person will walk away with something. So you start to kind of ethically bribe them, but you got to get them there live. And in terms of choreographing and the logistics and all of that stuff, I'll save that for a future episode. But if you don't have the people there live, then all the choreographing doesn't make sense. So if you were saying, well, Michael, of the 3 events that you talked about, and an open house for parents focused on referrals, number 2, and these are all meant to drive awareness. There's a difference of open houses for parents. That is an event just for families where they're able to see their kids' art and things like that. We're not talking about those events. We're talking about open house events that are meant to drive awareness for your business. The second event being a community-wide event, and then this third open house enrollment event, I always start with the third one. That is where you can kind of cast a bit of a strategically wide net, and you can generate some hard return on your investment. I love doing community events that are branding, but I can tell you of the thousands of these open houses that I've seen and analyzed, those types of events, they're feel-good events, which is good, but they're typically not ROI-driven events. So strategically pick the date, laser target your audience, deploy some guerrilla marketing to make sure that people are showing up live and start to see your enrollments grow. Michael Tasner signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Talk to you soon.